What's going on, everybody? We're back for our third edition of Assembled, where we talk all things superhero through a creative lens, I would say. Honestly, this time we're dropping in Spider-Man 4 and Spider-Man 4's confirmed news and rumors that we have. I mean, there's plenty of rumors, but we're going to touch on most of the major ones going on right now, as well as Venom 3 spoilers, and we got a treat. Spider-Man Noir. We got some first look photos to look at, guys. I mean, wow, this doesn't even have a release date officially, but hey, we got the suit and all. So we'll be looking at that. And guys, weigh in down in the comments. Let us know your thoughts about this. But let's start out with Spider-Man 4 because we got a big drop a couple of days ago. Tom Holland officially confirmed Spider-Man 4 will be happening. We already knew it was coming, but Tom actually went on Jimmy Fallon and said that it was going to be happening, as well as the release date, which is July 24th, 2026. But those are the only confirmed things we have for now, as well as Tom Holland coming back, Zendaya coming back. That's it. We don't have anything else confirmed. We have a ton of rumors about this, though. So let's talk about this in two parts. But first off, what's up, Mike? How are you, man?
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be talking Spider-Man. I'm glad we pushed this episode off because we were supposed to talk Spider-Man 4 like 2 weeks ago. But I'm glad we actually have news from Holland himself. Especially especially with Venom, especially with Noir. Like, I think this is a really good time to talk about Spider-Man. Also, happy Halloween, repping the Miles Morales cosplay.
Look at you with the Miles hoodie. I got
It's literally just a hoodie,
Spider-Man
but it's cool.
on the back of this thing.
Hey, nice. The iconic pose.
Double Spidey up in here, man. But yeah, happy Halloween,
Yeah.
dude. You been watching any
Yeah.
good movies lately?
I'm not a huge horror guy, but that just means I'm rewatching the Scream movies because those are the ones I like the most.
So good, dude.
They actually are. They put Scream 1 back in theaters, so I'm gonna go check that out tonight. That's gonna be a fun one.
Oh my goodness. Wait, is that a local thing?
It's probably a local thing. It's probably just at my local Marcus theater. I didn't see a promo for it. I'm like, what's playing this week? And I see Scream 9 p.m. I'm like, all right, I know what I'm doing tonight.
Yeah, I'm like, shoot, I might have to copy that plan.
Right?
Dude, hold on. I might have to get some showtimes up here. But yeah, man, Scream easily my favorite horror franchise as well. Actually, there's not one of them. I understand that 5 and 6 take it in a new direction, but hey, it was a direction I was down to go in.
I mean, if you're gonna continue a franchise, I would want you to take it into a new direction. Especially 30 years removed from the original anyway. So I'm here for it. Well, we won't talk about the next one, but that's okay.
Right. I think we're both in alignment with the series ending with 6. My God.
Yeah, there is no Scream 7 in Ba Sing Se.
All right, man. Let's dive into Spider-Man 4. So let's kind of tackle this in two parts because there's sort of two huge rumors going around about the plot. The first is that the plot will be like a multiverse story with Tobey Maguire and Andrew coming back. Maybe Venom and Null appear in this story as well. Maybe they're going to be on Battle World since it's going to be set between Doomsday and Secret Wars. This one sounds a little more complicated than the other proposed rumor, which is that Kingpin would be the main villain of this kind of more street level style Spider-Man with maybe even, Daredevil coming up. Maybe we have Haley Steinfeld's character from Hawkeye. Maybe we have Yelena Belova. That to me sounds a little more tame and more of like what I would like out of a Spider-Man 4. But there are also ideas from the other end of it that I like as well. And then over in that street level, maybe we'd get people like Black Cat, Harry Osborn, Gwen Stacy. That's when you get my lights on. That's when you get me kind of like very interested in this next Spider-Man installment because, dude, I'm missing those characters. I loved the Tom Holland trilogy, of movies. But I'm missing Gwen, I'm missing Harry, I'm missing these Spider-Man characters in these Spider-Man movies. So let me ask you, which storyline do you like a little bit more? Which one sounds wacky? I think I know your answer there. But do you think if they're going to go with the multiverse story, does it feel like Marvel is rushing out of the multiverse saga entirely?
Yeah, that's a loaded question because we also have to take into account the Sony pictures of it all. Of like, even if Marvel wants to be done with the multiverse, I don't know if Sony wants to be done with the multiverse because Marvel can be thinking, we want to go street level, we want to go back to basics, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Kingpin, that's where we want to go. But I could also see Sony saying, well, we just had the three Spider-Man make a Billy. Why don't we just run that back and toss in Miles for good measure or something crazy, right? Toss it to Marty and Venom, you know. But yeah, that's why these rumors are interesting because they're all rumors. We don't know if any of it's true, but like I could also see it being like two different visions, and that's why it took so long for them to land on
Yeah.
something to just start production. Because think about it, how wasn't Spider-Man already filming by now? Like when did No Way Home come out? It's been like 3 years, right? Just about?
2021. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
this is long time, guys, to be thinking about plot lines and such.
Especially, I was looking it up because when you mentioned street level, I'm like, I could have sworn Feige mentioned that. And yeah, in 2022, he
Yep.
said that Daredevil and Spider-Man are gonna like lead the street level heroes, and Null and multiverse BS doesn't seem like that's what that's leading the street level. So it feels like there was a divide there, and maybe they found like a middle ground. I also find it strange that Marvel, like, and going back to the Holland trilogy, right? No Way Homecoming, excuse me, Spider-Man Homecoming ends with him saying, "I want to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man," and we just never did that. Next movie, he's overseas. Movie after that, it's the multiverse. The Avengers movies happened in there too, and it's like, did we get lost in the sauce a little bit? We saw that the crossovers are making the money. So I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure to answer that question, but I do think there's like two distinct visions, and that's what took so long because the two studios probably couldn't land on something.
Yeah, and Sony has their Spider-Man vision that they have, and then Marvel has theirs. And like you said, they're not quite aligning, it seems like. I
Yeah.
like ideas. If we're gonna come to a compromise, I figure maybe Null and Kingpin team up. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe that's your compromise, and then you have the street level people coming plus Venom. I'm
That is
like, okay, that
wild. Can you imagine? He's just seeing Null. He's like, when I was a boy, my father.
he's like,
It's
I
just
can
like
relate to you.
so random, but like maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that might be their compromise. It's like, okay, you kind of get a Spider-Man Avengers, you get Venom back, you get all these characters we've seen throughout the MCU who have been fighting on the street. That could be a nice compromise, but at the same time, it sounds very overloaded. And Sony, we understand bringing back Toby and Andrew was great once, but don't you feel like if they bring them back again for another Spider-Man movie, that defeats the purpose of No Way Home a little bit?
That's what I feel about the multiverse entirely. Like, even with Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Seeing Hugh Jackman again is cool in a vacuum, but now the rumors are like he's just gonna be Wolverine for the next like 4 or 5 movies. It's like I don't know if I want that. I don't know if that's what the point of that film was, right? Like I feel like No Way Home was the love letter to Spider-Man, was the send off, and you can't repeat that. So it's gonna. I feel like if you want to do that, make Spider-Man 4 with like Raimi's Spider-Man 4. Make the
Ooh,
Amazing Spider-Man
that'd be
3.
fun.
Like if you want to go full on multiverse Spider-Man, do that. We just like check back in with those characters in their own verse. But I don't want to just keep pulling Tobey Maguire into the MCU because now it feels like Holland's not getting the justice that he deserves because like you were just saying and like Loretto was saying in the comments here, Black Cat, like I want to see Spider-Man characters in the Spider-Man. Is that too much to ask? Like I don't need 3 Peter Parkers. I just want to see Harry. I want to I want to see Gwen. Like I feel like you're primed, especially with the ending of No Way Home. That's why that movie works. You are primed to take Peter into college, introduce new characters, get away from Ned, get away from MJ, and then we can come back to them in that final like 6th movie in the new trilogy, the college trilogy.
Yeah.
Because having Ned and MJ be important characters in the next movie feels a little weird because they don't know this man. So is Peter stalking them? Like, how do they get back involved in his life that fast and organically? That's where
Yeah.
it's like I don't know if that's gonna make a lot of sense and not feel forced.
And what's weird is from Holland's trilogy, we still haven't seen what happened with Scorpion. He was in the prison. We still haven't seen that. Vulture has flown over to the Morbius verse. Who knows what happened with that? So we also have these weird loose ends still open from that trilogy. That when are we going to tie these things? Like, and you just mentioned one. Okay, MJ and Ned aren't going to know who he is. Why is Zendaya back? And I'm not saying that, listen, I love Zendaya. I would love her to come back, but why is she back at so soon? Yeah. I mean, they just forgot about this man. So it's kind of confusing as to what they're doing. But hey, I didn't even address the chat. What's going on, Eric Patterson? They're also showing Scream in LA.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Tonight. I'm Googling. What's going on, Isaac? Evening
Mr.
over
Wolf.
there. I mean, Sony Sephiroth wannabe is clearly something Sony wants to use as their Thanos. If you know, you know. Yeah, no, definitely it's got the Sephiroth type look with the long hair, but he looked awesome. The thing about Nolan is he looks great. But at the end of Venom 3, spoilers for anybody that doesn't want to be spoiled with Venom, hit mute. They show this man, he makes several promises of he's going to return, he's going to stop Venom, or now that Venom's out of the way, he's going to come and wreak havoc. All right, well, where? What movie, my man? Because it's certainly not going to be in Kraven.
It'd be wild if it was in Kraven the Hunter.
Wild. I mean, what if Kraven just like in the middle of battling Rhino and just like comes down to the earth? Then that we're getting way into the crazy weeds if that happens, but all right, that's the only place that has room. There's no Venom 4 in the works, and with how the box office is going, I don't know if there will be. There's no Madam Web 2 gonna happen. So,
weird. So I guess this is to kind of focus up the conversation a bit because there's a lot of different Spider-Man 4 rumors. Let's take it with the Venom versus Spider-Man first, right? Spoilers for Venom. I don't know how that's going to work exactly, but like, do we still have an idea on how that even works? Because like from my recollection, Eddie sees like Peter on the news, and that's pretty much the only connection those two have. How would those two ever meet up, and why would that ever be a conflict for them?
What's strange is Venom 2 set this up, right? And they could have very easily been like, Eddie could have seen him and be like, hey, that's the dude that got me kicked out of New York. You foster a connection right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided to just not do anything. Like, Venom has no idea who this is. This is clearly not connected. The only way I could think that they make it work is that somehow the Eddie and Venom in the MCU universe also have a relationship. And maybe it's like completely the opposite of the Venom we see in the movies. So it's Tom Hardy, same scenario sort of thing where he does get the symbiote, but this time he's more antagonistic. This time he's different. That's really the only way I could think of, because otherwise you're having them bounce universes again. We end Venom with them separate. So it's just kind of weird because we've moved on from Venom. And now we have a Spider-Man 4 rumor that says, hey, him and Spidey are going to team up and take on Null, or team up and take on some greater enemy. Didn't he leave a part of Venom in that universe during the bar scene? Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, maybe, but where was that bar? Was that bar even in New York? So like, I don't think it's gonna connect to Peter in any way. And if it connects to Eddie, again, why does Eddie care about Peter Parker? In the comics, they actually have a relationship and a reason to dislike Peter, both the symbiote and Eddie Brock. So I feel like, yeah. Even the Raimi trilogy, Spider-Man 3, as flimsy as it may feel sometimes, like I at least get why the symbiote and why Eddie dislikes Peter.
Danny Rojas.
Football is life.
Venom is life.
No, but yeah, like I feel like that's gonna be forced, and that's why the entire Sony universe of Marvel characters, I can't believe I got that right. That's why that universe feels a little weird, right? Not only are the movies mediocre, but like I don't know what Madam Web has to do with Venom. I don't know what that has to do with Morbius. And I don't see, because even if it's just that's its own thing and they team up to fight Null, what does Kraven, Venom, Morbius, and Madam Web have in common? to like
Nothing.
lead them together.
Not a damn thing. And so then you have that question, right? Okay, so we have the end of Morbius. We have Vulture show up. Why has he not been showing up in these other movies? Like, it will make sense if, okay, he shows up at the end of Morbius. Hey, man, we got a shared hatred for this kid. You get him at the end of Venom 2. Hey, man, like, that Peter Parker dude that got you kicked out of New York? Yeah, we're going to take him down. Get him at the end of Madam Web. Hey, there's this Spider-Man dude. Remember your mom encountered the Spider-Man in the forest? I just wrote a better Sinister Six plot line than what they're trying to come up with. I just don't understand where they're going with the Spider-Man Venom connection. But
yeah,
do you want to see these two team up even? Like Tom Hardy, Tom Holland. Do you want to see them team up and take on another like villain, whether it be Null or someone else? Do you even want to see that?
If the Venomverse didn't exist, maybe. That's the thing where it's like, I don't understand, and this is not even shade at those movies, but like, I don't understand what we're doing with Venom as a character. Like, if he's just black gooey Spider-Man from the multiverse, that's really all he, because like the relationship, the history isn't there, and so yeah, it's just two random dudes teaming up to fight Null. Like, sure, I guess you can make that work, but again, like it feels again like Sony is trying to make the forced team ups and forced crossovers happen without purpose or proper build up. Like Isaac was saying in the comments, right? We set up Venom and Spider-Man, right? Like, if the post-credit scene was the symbiote in Peter's apartment, or like it creeps up on Tom Holland, and we set that up, or even if we do that in the next Avengers movie, right? Like, if we go to Battle World and Peter gets a symbiote, we can lead into a Venom storyline. But again, after The Last Dance, I don't see what's the point of doing that,
Right. It's just, there's really no point after basically saying goodbye to your character. But Spider-Man 4, for now, what we do know it's definitely coming out. We know it's coming out between Secret Wars and or between Doomsday and Secret Wars. How do you feel about the whole Battle World thing? Because I think when it comes to it taking place on Battle World, it could take place in the world, and then if it reveals at the end that they're in Battle World, I don't think I necessarily hate that. But man, I just feel the freedom that Spider-Man 4 could have is a little bit jammed now because it is between Doomsday and Secret Wars. But hey, I just feel like it could take place on Battle World, but maybe not even be any reference to Battle World to the post-credit scene. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how much stock I put into that rumor specifically, mainly because I don't know if Doomsday and Secret Wars are connected, like that connected, where it's because like I think we're viewing it from the Infinity War and Endgame lens, where it's like it's part 1 and part 2, and then we have like a prequel in between, or whatever Ant-Man's doing in between. Like I think Doomsday could just be its own movie. They fight Doctor Doom. They get traumatized from that because Peter's fighting Mr. Stark with a new mask, right? But then it goes back to a regular Spider-Man adventure, quote unquote regular. Could still be multiverse, like remnants and stuff happening, but I don't think it's like gonna be sandwiched in between the two, and it's like super hard connected into it, like taking place on Battle World. That just doesn't feel right. Even if it ends with like maybe the Avengers are on Battle World, and then Spider-Man 4 ends with Peter also ending up on Battle World. I don't know if he's entirely on Battle World for the full film. That just doesn't, even for Sony and Marvel and their weird relationship, that seems too out there even for them. Like, I don't think we do that with Spidey. It really just comes down to what do you do then? Because like if the Avengers are gone, or if Peter is on Battle World, maybe that is why he meets Venom. I don't know, because I just one thing that really has been bugging me with how Sony and Marvel have been treating Spider-Man as a brand, just all of it. It feels like we're losing what makes Spider-Man great. Like I like him being that street level character. I like him being that kid who's helping his community, whether this is Peter or this is Miles, either one. I love that aspect because New York, their school, their jobs, it all feels important to who they are as people. It doesn't have to be this otherworldly, destruction threat. And as much as I love the Spider-Verse movies, I feel like they're also part of the problem, where it's like they're really good, But now it's warping everyone's perception of what Spider-Man is. And it's like, I like him struggling to make money, taking pictures of himself and selling it to J. Jonah
Right?
Jameson. And I don't think we're ever getting back there anymore at this point.
Yeah, unless you hit that reset button, but or you just wait till post multiverse saga and you say, okay, we're gonna continue. Because they say they're gonna hit the full reset is the rumor. I'm like, no, you can't just leave Spider-Man in the past. Like you can't just say Tom Holland Spider-Man stays in the you gotta continue with him, Fantastic Four, and maybe like one other set of characters. And then that's Shang-Chi, I'm sure, will probably continue over. But it's just like, all right, you can't just leave everybody and be like, hey, we did phase 4 and 5. And now that those are done, no more Shang-Chi, no more Spider-Man. That's got to continue after, I think.
I feel like you can soft reboot. Like, whatever happens with the multiverse saga, if a new Earth, if we're taking DC like terminology, like a new Earth is formed and like continuity resets, you know, you can just be like, oh, T'Challa, Steve, Tony, Natasha, they're all back. They're played by different people. Get over it. That could also, like, if Tom Holland wants out, we can age Peter back down again, or he can stay same age out the role, and then just have Miles be the main Spider-Man after that, if that's how they want to go. But like, I think there is I fully expect Marvel to like soft reset continuity to bring those characters back, because quite frankly, it'd be really weird not to have, you know, Tony Stark in the Illuminati with T'Challa and the X-Men, you know, the Fantastic Four here and there. Like, now that Marvel has all their characters, I'm sure Kevin Feige's like, okay, now we can actually use all of them, not have the Avengers. And once the Avengers are done, we now have the X-Men. He wants the Avengers and the X-Men, you know?
Hey, I'm here for it, man. And speaking of Spider-Verse, which has been a wonderful universe, we're going to get a first look here at Spider Noir. Here, I got some images to share. Got a couple images on set, and this is not Nicolas Cage, guys. This is definitely a stunt double. But we got a look at the stunt double in the Spider-Man Noir suit. And honestly, man, the pictures look great. The only issue I have, what's that?
I said I am hyped.
The only issue I have is I'm like, hey, if this is him in the last episode, I'm gonna be pissed. Like, if they're like, yeah, this is the only part of the suit you're gonna get to see, I'm gonna be ticked. But if we get to see this suit throughout the show, dude, this looks good.
That
looks awesome.
It looks great. I'm pretty sure the first look we had at this show, another set pick, he didn't have the mask, and I was like, in our private chats, I'm like, I need them to commit. If you're gonna make this Spider-Man Noir, he needs to have the freaking mask and the goggles and the little hat, and they committed. So I'm happy. But yeah, like, I'm with you. This very much could be a last 2 episode type of deal. Especially like you said, that's definitely not Nicolas Cage. And I get it. I get he needs a stunt double, but like, I also think there's a possibility that Nicolas Cage never wears this. So we're just gonna not have it on for most of the show.
Yeah, I'm like, man, okay, how much are we actually gonna get to see this? Because like you, I saw that set photo and I'm like, like that's cool and all, but that doesn't look like Spider-Man Noir. Like, it just looks like Nicolas Cage in a fedora. That's cool if that's what they wanted to go for, but the logline for this show is Spider-Man tells the story of an aging and down on his luck private investigator in 1930s New York who was forced to grapple with his past life as the city's one and only superhero. And see, I put a question here in our rundown. I was just like, why does Sony continue to drag out their Spider-Man villain universe when they have Spider-Man? We have Spider-Man Noir. We have Spider-Gwen, who has also been a very popular character out of the Spider-Verse movies. Why don't they just run with those characters, man? Make a Spider-Gwen animated or live action show, Spider Noir. What the hell are they doing with the villain universe? Like, why?
Yeah, I don't know what the contractual agreement is between Sony and Disney now. But if you remember from the leaks from like 2017 or whatever, in the contract, it was like Spider-Man can only be portrayed as Peter Parker, blah, blah, blah. He can only be this race, this ethnicity, yada, yada. And so I feel like Miles, Gwen, Cindy, they might just be locked behind in contract hell if that hasn't changed. I
Uh,
think it has changed because we did get the Spider-Verse movie, so I'm not entirely sure on that, but I wouldn't be surprised because Spider-Man Noir is still Peter Parker, right? Like, so that still stays in line, I'm pretty sure.
well, the rumor is that it's going to be a different character.
Okay. In
Um,
that case, yeah, I definitely would rather them do Spider-Gwen and Silk and Miles Morales as opposed to whatever the heck Morbius is supposed to be. Like, Madam Web, as bad as it is, at least there were spider people in it, so I kind of forgive it a little bit more.
yeah, it's
But
Ben Riley supposedly, which I'm like, okay, that's confusing on a whole other level.
the clone?
Yeah, that. So I was like, we're using clone Peter. All right, but so to your point, I wonder if they can't just use Peter Parker, because then you've also got the MCU dropping their Spider-Man animated series with Peter
Yeah.
Parker. So they must have rights to Peter Parker. Well, okay, change it to Ben Riley, whatever. Do this. Do more of
Yeah.
this. Less Venom, less Morbius. Focus all of your chips on this and Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman. I don't know why they don't do that, but this looks great, and I hope this
It
is
feels
not.
like easy money. It's such an easy sell because especially after the Spider-Verse films, everybody's open to these different interpretations. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's gonna be like, "Oh, I don't want to see Spider-Gwen or Silk or Miles." Like, I feel even Spider-Man 2099, you can do that. That'd be really cool. Take us to the future.
all these great characters, and they set them up with the movies. If they have a show, if they have a mini movie, whatever it is, whatever they want to do with these characters, I'm just like, yo, just run with that. Cancel the villain verse. Do these characters, and then if you want to throw Noel in as their super bad, hey, I'm here for it, man. Spider-Man Noir dropping off the rooftops. Oh, there we go,
Noir
Tiger.
versus Null, though.
I think Spider Noir alone might be cooked, but
Oh, yeah.
maybe you can find a way.
I'm excited for this show though because I do like the vibe it's going for. It's a detective noir story first and foremost, superhero second. So it'll be interesting. Like, I'm hoping for a superhero series comp. I'm hoping for like Batman the Animated Series vibes, where it's just like it's Ben, I guess. It's Ben doing detective work every episode, even if it's one and done's. I'm cool with that. Like, lean into the Sherlock of it all, of just like random mysteries every episode. That's cool. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and it gives it a unique vibe from everything else. And as we've seen with Agatha and Penguin, those things work. Give
Yeah.
it its own vibe, give it its own setting and feel. And that seems to be what they're going for. But I can't help but to see this comment. Watch, this is just a flashback.
They're probably not wrong because with the synopsis you read, right? Forced to grapple with the past life as the city's one and only superhero. This could be him in the back in my day when he was Spider-Man, and we get like 5 minutes of a flashback sequence, and then we never see the suit again. But we're gonna be positive and hope that's not the case.
Let's hope and pray that we're gonna get some Spidey swinging action in this live action show. Like, please, Amazon, give us some swinging scenes, at least a little bit. But let's go ahead and enter into our last subject here, Venom: The Last Dance. We're going to be talking a little bit of spoilers here. Well, no, we're going full spoilers, yo. So if you haven't seen the movie, go ahead, go see it. Come on back to the channel. Talk
Or
down
don't.
let us know. Or don't see it. That's totally okay too. You can hear the all of the spoilers here. But for Venom: The Last Dance, I just want to share some brief thoughts. It is the best out of the three, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think the symbiotes. So there are the xenophages introduced in this movie, as well as Null. Null is trying to get essentially a MacGuffin from Venom to come back down to the earth. And he sends the xenophages to hunt Venom and the other symbiotes. So the other symbiotes start bonding with other characters and late in the movie. And we see other symbiotes, and dude, they have some really cool, like, looking symbiotes. I will say, like, the visuals on this movie look really good, but we get to see not only Venom, we see Toxin, we see Agony. Agony is like a super speedy symbiote. We see Lasher, but it's like all these like different arms, but they're blade arms as well. It's really cool, like symbiotes that I was like, okay, if maybe we had introduced those throughout the 3 films, this could have been a cooler concept of like this symbiote Avengers uniting to defeat the xenophages. Instead, we kind of just get them all shoehorned at the end of Venom 3, and it still looks cool. Venom rides a motorcycle at one point and it looks dope. We have all these symbiotes appear in the film, and then we finally, once they defeat the xenophages, Venom sacrifices himself. Eddie Brock and Venom are no longer bonded. The ending is very abrupt, by the way, dude. Like they're taking this road trip to New York. We get to a certain point where they run in with the scientists that are studying the xenomorphs, or the xenomorphs. Wow, studying the symbiotes. Studying the symbiotes. Venom and the symbiotes have to unite to defeat the xenophages. Then after that happens, Eddie Brock's in New York, and it just ends. Like he sees the Statue of Liberty, and shit ends. And then after that, we get 2 post credits. One with Null, who essentially announces that he's coming to Earth now that Venom's out of the way. And then the second one, we see the bartender crawl up out, like he's like crawling out of a cave, dude. There's like a wasteland like setting, and in the foreground we see a beetle all in black. So Venom's still around. It's so weird to me that they have their Thanos, like we were saying earlier, basically announced that he's gonna be back in this movie, Venom 3. This is after Venom 1, 2. This is after Morbius. This is after the 3rd Venom. This is after Madam Web. We finally get our Thanos. So we had a Nick Fury at the end of Morbius who has not popped back up. What is going on with this universe? And I just want to know, why set up Null this late in the Sony Spider-Man movies? And I'm wondering, do audiences even care anymore at this point? Because we've dragged this out. Venom 1 was a hit with audiences. With the box office at the very least. Venom 2, another hit with the box office. It was one of the highest earning in COVID.
Yeah.
Then you have Venom 3, which is tracking lower. I just wonder if people care anymore. Joker 2 bombed. This one is doing not so amazingly. Why so late? And do audiences even care anymore? Mike, are you even going to see Venom 3?
I'm going to be fully transparent with you and the audience. I have not watched one of these movies since Venom 1, so no, I'm not. But I am going to pick your brain because I do want to get something cleared up here, because it's like you're a bigger Spider-Man and Venom fan than I am, so maybe you can answer this for me. But like, Null is like the big bad, right? Of that storyline. So why didn't we just make Eddie Agent Venom in the first place, instead of like trying to do classic Eddie Brock but without Peter Parker, so we don't have that like anchor to the story, that humanity to the story? Because honestly, the story of Venom and Spider-Man is the story of like a lover scorned with the symbiote, of just like hating Peter for dumping it,
right?
And then that latches on to Eddie's hatred already of Peter for other life stuff. And so that's what made that relationship always kind of interesting. But now we're kind of devoid of that, which at first feels a bit weird. But there are Venom comics and like standalone stories with that character that they could have just leaned into. So yeah, I fully get what you mean by like, why wasn't Null just set up earlier? I feel like if Sony really cared about establishing its own universe, you do Agent Venom for the first movie, and then you properly tease Null throughout the rest of these, and you build your Dark Avengers-esque team of Morbius, Venom, and Madam Web, and I guess Craven for some reason to fight Null. I feel like that's what you do, because I feel like Madam Web and Venom at least make sense, because the Spider people get together to stop Null. And Spider-Man the Animated Series kind of did that in its finale in the 90s, where Madam Web's just like, all right, Spider dudes, let's go do the first ever multiverse crossover. But yeah, that's where it's like, I feel like from the jump, that was the issue. Like from its conception, they could have made this work, even though it's not what any of us wanted, but they just took every wrong turn.
Every single one. And Tyler said the bold strategy to tease and feature Big Bad with no upcoming movies. Yeah, they came out the gate teasing this and that, and again, we kind of got the tease of the Dark Avengers thing at the end of Morbius, and it's like, okay, so you had Vulture pop up, say, hey, let's do something together, whatever. But there's just been no semblance of a shared hatred for Spider-Man, a collective mindset of any kind. Like, it's like, why
Yeah.
team up now? So let's just
Yeah.
say Null crashes down on their Earth. Why even team up? Morbius and Vulture over here, Madam Web, who knows what the hell's going on with her? The end of the movie, that is the only place where we actually get the Spider Women. And she's like with the Spider Women, and they're doing their whole thing over here. So it's just a mess right now. But I think what they wanted to do with Null, and this is just my thing, this is my thought about it. I think what they wanted to do with Null was like, that was kind of their hard press on the gas of like, okay, we're doing this thing. Like, I think they were kind of like, maybe we'll do it, maybe not. Well, Madam Web's over in this universe, separate from I think that Null, bringing back Null was their definitive way of saying, okay, we're going for the Sinister Six thing for sure. And so I don't know what they're going to do and how they're going to set things up to make sense, but they're going to somehow bring Madam Web, Morbius. Gosh, we got Tyler with El Muerto. I need you to distract Null. Maybe El Muerto is number 3. Then you got Craven, Vulture, and then Scorpion, I guess, since he wasn't used in No Way Home or after Homecoming. He wasn't used anywhere else. So I guess you got your 6 there, but who cares?
Yeah, so this is where it comes back to, I feel like Sony and Marvel to an extent, but Marvel not nearly as egregious, where it's like, I think everybody forgot why we like cinematic universes and continuity, right? And we like the relationships building. I don't care about the Sinister Six unless they already have a history with Spider-Man, because it's like, oh, Doc Ock and Sandman decide to team up for their hate because they have that shared hatred of, I want to kill Spider-Man. And it's like, cool. All of Spider-Man's villains decided we're stronger together. We have a better shot beating them if we unite. If it's just 6 random bums off the street, I really don't care. And that's what it feels like, right? Like, outside of Vulture, because like Scorpion has never been Scorpion in these movies. So he's just a random thug to me at this point, where it's just like, all right. It's like if you're playing an Arkham game and one of the dudes on the street just becomes like the Joker. It's like, okay, I don't know who you are, but we're gonna hit the triangle button when the little ding pops over the head. But you were talking about like Venom going all out and finally committing. I wonder if that's because Tom Hardy is a credited writer on this movie, and it is called The Last Dance. So I wonder if he's just like, hey, I've made you guys so much money. I want to go out and have a blast doing it. And I do want to point out, you did say that this was the best of the 3 to you. So I wonder if you just feel that Hardy and the people behind this one are like, we're going out, we're just gonna throw everything in there. We're gonna go big, we're gonna go hard. And I wonder if that's just where it ends. Like they did everything they wanted it to, and now it's up to Sony to figure out how to make it work. I don't know how much of this is like Sony, and then especially Feige trying to figure out how to make all that work with Spider-Man. It could have just been Hardy saying, I want to have a blast and go out swinging, which I respect.
Honestly, if that was it, good for Hardy, man, because this last one is fun. And the director, though, did not help anybody out by saying, yeah, this can't be the only time we see Null. Null's too good of a villain. And it's like, okay.
Is he, though?
like most people that I know who read comics even think Null is okay. Like, yes. I like Null as a villain, but I'm like, mostly because he looks super cool.
Yeah, he feels like a one and done to me, usually. Like, I guess technically you want him to meet a spider person, like officially, but outside of that, we can leave him. We can leave him alone.
Honestly, they could have even just brought him down. I'm like, why not have him instead of the xenophages? Why not kind of make the xenophages a little easier to take out? Then you bring him down Null, and then the Venom symbiote army and versus Null happens. I mean, that could have just been it. One and done. Boom. King in Black gets taken down by the black symbiote. Like,
yeah, especially it would have been full circle because I haven't seen all these movies, but I do know a big theme of the first one was just like the Venom symbiote and Eddie are quote unquote losers, right? So for a loser
Right.
to take down the king of the symbiotes would be a pretty like good arc for that character.
Yeah.
Um, but we don't believe in story arcs here in the Sony universe of Marvel characters. So to answer your other question though, because we never got to it, do audiences care? I think, and we talked about this in our first episode, right? The superhero fatigue. And I think audiences have gotten to the point where they're too smart and they see through the BS a little bit, where it's like, at this point, I'm only gonna show up for the characters I care about or for the stories that look and appeal to me and look interesting, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's why there is the push of like, you need Spider-Man. Because we kept saying, how are you gonna make a universe without Spider-Man? Well, they got a couple movies deep, and I think audience are just like, nah, fam, we're not doing this anymore. I need to see a Spider-Man, whether that is Peter, Miles, Gwen, whoever they want to put in the suit. You need a Spider person. And I think Marvel also recognized that, which is why they had their little gap year here with the one movie with Deadpool and Wolverine, and they kind of reset. And we're getting Fantastic Four. DC did that, and now we're getting Superman, right? We're no longer getting the random creative driven movie, unfortunately, anymore, where it's like Eternals, they tried and that didn't stick. In DC's case, they tried Birds of Prey, that didn't stick. Sony, they're going with the Craven. We'll see how that works. I don't have high hopes for it. And I think all the studios are like, okay, back to basics. DC needs the Trinity, Marvel needs the Avengers and Spider-Man. Sony can't get away with this crap anymore. They need to go back to Marvel and say, let's make more Spider-Man movies.
They really do, because this apparently had a pretty soft domestic opening. I'm looking here at Box Office Pro, but it had 175 million global. So it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's doing really well in China,
global.
last I heard.
Yeah, there's definitely global interest. But can we just can Venom just settle that down? I think with Null now and Craven around the corner, if Craven doesn't make that much money, maybe they just put Null in Spider-Man 4 somehow, because otherwise that was a throwaway, or they just throw away with that idea and just never roll back to it. And that was just Venom's swan song. He beat the Xenophages. Null's still out there, but no worries. Venom's out the way, so he can't come back. Maybe that's just the answer.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like some loose threads just never get tied up. It happens. You kind of just learn to live with it. Famously, we never got to see Sinestro after Green Lantern. Like things just happen. I did want to mention because we only have one more superhero movie left this year, and that's Craven. One more comic book movie. Yeah, so this year, Madam Web, 11% on Rotten Tomatoes, Deadpool and Wolverine, 78, The Crow, 23, Hellboy, 41, Joker, Fully You Do, 32, and Venom, 37%. It's bad, and last year was also bad, and I'm wondering, and this is something that Christian Film Optics, check him out, would say a lot. It's not necessarily superhero fatigue, it's a bad movie fatigue. And I think the Rotten Tomatoes scores, again, Rotten Tomatoes, we don't hold that like as the standard, but it is a good indicator of like, this is how people feel about these movies. If people are coming away generally 40% liking it, you have a problem, especially with superhero movies, because those are general audience popcorn flicks. Like you go in, and if you had a decent time, you're going to give it a positive rating, right? I don't think it's hard for superhero movies to win us over, because Hammer floats up to Captain America, 10 out of 10 for everybody in that theater. They don't care what else happened in that movie, because that moment will live with them forever, right? But I think we just got to the point where they need to just be better. And I hate to be that guy of just like make better movies, but I think the reason they're struggling at the box office is because they're just not that good. And even like, I'm not even a huge fan of Deadpool and Wolverine, but the fact that it was an enjoyable, fun time, that's why everybody loved that movie, because it just knew how to take itself not too seriously and have fun with it. And ultimately, that's all we want out of these. And for a lot of people, Venom did that for a couple of films, but I think we just reached the point where people stopped caring, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah. And I think at this point, Venom, out of all of like Venom and Deadpool and Wolverine out of all these movies know what their audiences want. I think I would even say Venom 3 knows how to appeal to its audience with the goofy humor and the fun pop songs and stuff like that. Deadpool and Wolverine obviously doesn't take itself seriously, but you got shit like Madam Web. Why are you trying to be serious? Why? Just be goofy. Just I felt like the whole Sony Spider-Man universe should have just been like the Venom Venom in tone. Because when Morbius tried to take itself seriously, and then you have Matt Smith dancing to some song talking about let's have sex, I just feel like embrace the goofball antics, embrace that. And the Crow, I'm sorry, the Crow had no business coming out. I think with Brandon Lee, that was like a movie attached to such a legacy story and an unfortunate tale that I think that material should have just never been touched. And I think when you have the first one connected through that tale, because a lot of people watch that first Crow because of what happened. And also not just that, Brandon Lee's performance is iconic. And it's kind of cemented into the character of Eric Draven. So when you mess with that, you're messing with a little bit of legacy. So I think a lot of people just weren't going to see that anyway. Hellboy, please let it go. Please let go. We just don't know. They don't know how to make Hellboy movies. Guillermo del Toro did the 2 good ones. And then since then, it has been a mess. Just let go. Let go of the IP, please. I'm begging.
Also, no offense to the Hellboy fans out there. I just don't know if that character is like, do people care outside of those first 2 movies? Like, I don't even know if the interest is there. Like, if you don't make another Hellboy movie ever again, how many people will actually be that mad about it? You know?
Nobody.
Yeah, and it's like, I hate saying that because I'm a fan of very niche things too. So it's like, I get there's an audience that cares about Hellboy, but it's like, it's diminishing returns at this point, like you said. And we get to the point with these IP that you're going to hurt the brand, right? And this is something on the DC side that happened where it's like DC's brand took a hit like all across the board. There's a generation of kids who don't care about DC characters because of that DCU gap that we had from 2013 to 2024, where there's a whole generation of about to be teenagers that hate Superman. And I guarantee you they don't know a thing about Superman as a character.
So no, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say that's also what I find interesting about Venom, right? One thing I noticed, because I did go to the movies a couple of days ago. I didn't see Venom, but I heard like teenagers talking as they were walking out of Venom and how much they love that movie and love that franchise. They're theorizing about, oh, I wonder how Noel's gonna come back. And I'm like, this is a generation that probably doesn't even know Venom is a Spider-Man character. Yeah. And as a Spider-Man fan, that's going to feel really weird. But now it's like we've gotten to a point where I don't even know what you do with Venom next, because he now exists outside of Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. You know, and there's a whole section, a whole demographic of people out there now that have a specific view of these characters and these things. That also makes making a movie for everybody even harder as you go forward, right? Because I mentioned this with DC, right? Now there's people who want a darker Superman. There's nothing wrong with that. There's some people who love Zack Snyder's take on that universe, even though that's not exactly how the comics did it. But there was 10 years of those movies existing now. And so now that is DC's legacy. And it's the same thing with Spider-Man, where it's like, well, now how many more shots? That's to bring it back home. How many more shots at this do you get? You know, same thing with a Fantastic Four. How many more movies can you get before you have to give up? Because there are so many people I know who hate the Fantastic Four because they don't like those movies. And it's like, well, it's not a proper representation. So the Sony universe, my point is, get your crap together, because eventually Craven, Madam Web, Morbius, they're going to be just the laughing stocks of the comic book community, because nobody is going to be like, well, it's going to just be me and Leo here in 30 years. Like, well, back in my day, these characters were cool if you read the comics.
If you knew about
be that uncle,
Craven back in the comics and the Craven the Hunter saga and Spider-Man, like,
you know, he actually hunted. You know, he wasn't a pacifist and wanted to save all these.
Oh my God. Craven is the savior of animals. I'm like, as he wears a fur vest,
this is why, as a comic book fan, like I understand not being gatekeepy and how problematic that could be, but this is also why I feel like people get really scared and nervous when an adaptation is a poor representation of that character, right? Because now it's set in stone. This is what this character is like, and a lot of people laugh at you for that, right? Because again, Superman being a Boy Scout is a bad thing, but Captain America being a Boy Scout isn't, because the Captain America movies were good and people didn't really gravitate to that version of Superman. And so now it's like, okay, but now that's another audience that you need to help and cultivate, who are fans of your material, even if it's this version of it. So it's always a weird, interesting thing. And that's why Spider-Man is fascinating to me, because Spider-Man has now branched itself off into like 5 different categories, with the Venom verse, Miles Morales in the Spider-Verse, whatever Tom Holland's doing in the MCU, the video games now, they're all vastly different from each other. But that also means making the next on-screen interpretation of the character is going to be that much harder.
Yeah. And there's a lot of hard work for not only the Sony Spider-Man movies to do, but the continuation of the MCU. I mean, somebody congratulated Kevin Feige on Blue Beetle. Like, that's how much people don't know that these are different universes. There have been people who've asked me, is Batman in the MCU? I know you'd say, if somebody asked you, where's Superman in the Endgame? I mean, it just, people don't connect the dots and say, hey, Batman and Superman are DC, Spider-Man and Captain America are Marvel. People don't connect the dots that vividly. So when one of these does bad, they all do bad. So these Sony Spider-Man movies doing bad, that affects James Gunn's DCU. It may not directly be James Gunn's fault, but it does, for the audience sake, make them feel like, well, damn, I've had Venom, I've had Morbius, all this stuff. What's going on?
And this is why superhero fatigue is a myth, but that's also why it low-key exists, right? Because if you're the person who watches all of these, you're gonna get sick of it.
Yeah.
Because you come away like, oh, I liked this one, right? Like, I like this one right here, or I like this one down here, but you didn't really care for the rest. It's just like, okay, so for the last 2 years, you've had one movie out of like 8 of these that you've watched. And that becomes an issue. Also, just a quick side tangent. Do you think Kevin Feige said thank you when he was congratulated for Blue Beetle? I would have just taken the credit.
Yeah, I'm sure it was like, oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was a great movie, right? Joel's gonna be a star. Walk away. No, but yeah, that's why this is gonna be interesting going into next year, because I think next year is gonna be really good, because there's a lot of really good movies on the slate. I just hope that 2023 and 24 don't like impact Fantastic Four and Superman and everything else they got cooking next year.
Let me ask you, and this will be the last question I asked you for the stream, and everybody in the stream who's still watching, please weigh in. How much, I guess my question is, how much pressure do you think is on Superman at this point?
Ooh, Superman. Hold on.
James, I know this is a completely different universe.
Yeah. Who would have thought the new Hellboy movie would have had a higher Rotten Tomatoes score?
What a nightmare Joker 2 became.
Yeah, we didn't do our Joker stream, so like I'm glad we're getting it all out here. Joker 2, bro, that movie was weird. There's cool ideas there. I still like it better than the first one, but we'll circle back to that one day. Superman has a ton of pressure, and it's even more pressure than I initially gave it credit for, because it is the start of a new universe. DC, again, their reputation is in the gutter. Warner Brothers is also broke, so they need this movie to like be a hit and start giving them some more money makers, especially after let Nolan and Oppenheimer go. I'm sure they're kicking themselves in the foot for that one, right? But
tearjerker.
Yeah. So it's a lot of pressure. And there was actually an article, I don't know if I shared it with you, but it was basically somebody at Warner Brothers saying Superman is going to be, they're hoping it's Barbie level hype behind it. And they're going to do a Barbie level marketing push for it. And that's why I'm like, that's a lot of pressure now, because I was thinking, well, if James is going to keep the budget relatively low, and they do an average marketing campaign, you want to make a profit. That's the thing. You want to make a movie people like and make a profit. But if we're putting Barbie level marketing behind it, now this movie's gonna have to go make $1 billion. I don't know if it's gonna do that. So the pressure shoots way up because they're pushing all the chips in instead of just like trying to build something nice and something new, right? Superman on Hot Ones, Tyler says in the comments. I mean, yeah, that honestly could work.
Yeah,
You
corn
put
sweat
corn
on
sweat
Hot
in the
Ones.
suit. But yeah, like I feel box office wise, at first I was thinking it needs to make around what the Batman did because that just makes the most sense. Keep the budget relatively low, make it a little bit more than the Batman. They're good, but now they probably need this movie to make $800 million or more. Like ideally, I think they want more. So there's a lot of pressure on Superman, and at this point, we're gonna get that trailer in like a month and a half or so. I think we're gonna see because if that trailer kicks ass and gets people excited, maybe they could pull it off. But I think 2025 is just too stacked.
Yeah, it's also coming out alongside the new Jurassic World, which
Yeah,
I haven't thought those movies were good in a while, but audiences love those movies, man. The last one made $1 billion and it was like pretty low on Rotten Tomatoes critic score, but it made $1 billion. Like
well,
people
that's
love
another
them.
one where didn't the original cast from Jurassic Park show back up, right? Like Laura Dern
Yeah.
and Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, so I think that movie again a few years back is the crossover hype that we all had of like, oh, the nostalgia. Like, I don't like Jurassic World either, but I'm like, well, Jurassic Park's like my favorite movie of all time. So I've got to go see Jeff Goldblum and the gang back, right? With the dinosaurs. Yeah, but it's coming out along the next Jurassic, which I'm excited for. It has a great cast.
Mm-hmm.
But also Fantastic Four is like a week after, I think.
Yep.
So Superman might need to move. Like I think Superman needs to move because Superman as a character is bigger than Fantastic Four. But I just at the state DC is in right now, I don't want to go up against a Marvel Studios movie, regardless of what it is, especially one led by Pedro Pascal, coming off of Gladiator and another season of The Last of Us.
Oh my God, that's a good point.
Move out the way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you think Batman versus Superman went up against Captain America versus Iron Man, and Captain America versus Iron Man blew that movie out of the water. So
Yeah.
the Fantastic Family, maybe that's not Marvel's equivalent in popularity of Superman, it would be Spider-Man, but still, that's still a big movie to be going up against anyway, with all the
Yeah.
stuff Pedro's coming off of. Yeah, that's a good
That-
point.
That's answering the question of the pressure. Now, does it live up to expectations? Is a different question, right? Like, I think the movie's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be phenomenal, but yeah, it depends how much the word of mouth carries at that point too, because it's gonna be just stacked. So I would say Superman needs to move up because don't we have another Avatar movie coming out next year too?
Yeah, isn't that coming out in
Avatar 3.
January? No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Last Airbender.
I mean, we do have we have both Avatars next year, I think. The good one and the Blue Cats. No shade, James Cameron. Don't come after me. But yeah, it's just so much. You've got so much coming out, and Superman. I guess if they put all the chips on the table and do that Barbie style marketing, maybe they can make it work. Maybe they luck out and they get the Barbenheimer vibes of just like Superman and dinosaurs. every young boy's dream, right? Go watch both.
If they could get that kind of luck, man, like that'd be perfect for them. I just know DC has to come back like swinging, man. After what happened with the DCEU, they gotta come back. And I think for characters like Spider-Man 4, you're pretty much guaranteed that 800 million. Like Spider-Man and some of the iconic Marvel heroes, you're guaranteed that. But Superman, we got to get you back in that status, man.
Yeah. Tyler says, crazy how far we've come in comic book movies or Superman has to be away from Fantastic Four. It's not even that, like, I think Superman can walk away with the biggest opening weekend from that month. I don't think it's that Superman is gonna, underperform compared to the Fantastic Four. It's just they're gonna eat each other's box office up because people aren't gonna go see 3 movies, in 3 weeks. It's just not how people are. So while Superman may win the weekend, who wants a $70 million opening when you can just move a month up or a month back and get $150-200 million opening? You know, that's where we're at. We're at the point where it's not Superman having to move away from Fantastic Four. We're at the point where there's just too many of these things coming out. And it's like they're all just going to be bunched up together. So yeah, that's my concern. It's really also what does David Zaslav and James Gunn, Peter Safran need this movie to do, right? Like, I think we talked about this off air, but like even Lanterns being set in rural America, and it's a Earth-based show. Like, I don't know how much money they're spending on some of these DC projects at first either. So like, I think Superman's their big swing, and then everything after that is going to be lower budget compared to what Marvel tends to do with these types of projects. So that's where it's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds. I feel bad for DC Studios a little bit, because I feel like this is their year. They could have excelled because Marvel had one theatrical release.
One.
But now Marvel's got to get back to what, 2, 3, 4 movies a year?
Yeah, because they got Captain America in February.
Yep.
Got Thunderbolts in May. And then they've got Fantastic Four in July. So part of me is like, man, Superman, you kind of missed it. It would have been great to plug in right in like March, because I'm looking at a release calendar here and I'm like, okay, obviously you don't want to be in the January graveyard. February is Captain America. I mean, March, it's really got, I mean, Snow White's a pretty different audience, different enough to where it could plug in at the beginning of March and just ride all the way to May. That's what Mario Brothers did. It plugged in right in March, had no competition till I want to say May or June.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way to go. Plug yourself in, and then you got all of March. You got all of April, all the way to Thunderbolts, which I think Thunderbolts don't come out till the second weekend of May. So I'm like, that's a couple of May 2nd. So it's beginning of May. But that if you came out March, first weekend of March, that'd be March and April. And even when Thunderbolts comes out, I can still see people going to see Superman if it's that big. Yeah. You could dominate through May, maybe. But yeah, I feel like sandwiching it in with Jurassic World and with Fantastic Four, instead of getting $1 billion earner out of that, you're going to get 3 like $500 million earners. So we'll see.
Do you still have that calendar in front of you? Because Superman can't move up. Just simply because VFX won't be done in time. What happens if they move back? Like, what does August, September look like in 2024?
August is pretty decent right now, but I think August is like when the kids go back, so you could hit October, which would be kind of weird for Superman.
Well, it was Batman spots.
Now that I'm like looking at it, I'm like, well, July is like probably the best if you can't move it forward. Probably, I mean, let me see, November, Wicked 2, Zootopia 2. Yeah, it's kind of, what's weird is it's kind of trapped in that July spot. Maybe it could bump back to August, but usually August is a graveyard too. January and August are just pretty bad months for the movies, but yeah, one of them's gonna have to move, and I don't think it's gonna be Jurassic World or Fantastic Four. I had a small theory that maybe Fantastic Four will move back to November, because Marvel has had that release date quite a few times in like a late November. Thor Ragnarok and all kind of movies have come out in November, but I don't know if Superman would benefit from moving now looking at this list.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Where it's like it's a catch-22 where it's like they need to get it out, but also I don't know how successful it's going to be. Like, it's going to make money. I'm sure it's going to make its budget back, but I don't know if it's going to be the smash hit. It's not going to be the home run that I think Warner Brothers is hoping it's going to be. It might be a base hit, or it might be a double.
Yeah,
yeah.
I could see it doing like 600-700.
Yeah.
Like, and 700 for them, that'd be a win. Like, if y'all do 700-800, Hey, that's a win.
Hey, a profit at this point is a win. I feel like every DC movie for the last 3 years has been in the red.
Remember Black
So-
Adam? It's
oh
just been a roller
gosh.
coaster nightmare since then. Poor
I
DC.
still can't believe Aquaman 2 was that big of a bomb when the first one made $1 billion.
And this is a sad. It's like, okay, Joker 2, Aquaman 2. And I hate to say it, I really liked Birds of Prey, but that's another one you can put on there following Suicide Squad. I'm like, dude, the Suicide Squad. It's just like them sequels for DC have been flatlining.
Yeah.
But speaking of Spider-Man, y'all, that is our conversation about Spider-Man 4 rumors and Spider-Man Noir, as well as Venom 3. And we'll see what happens with Null in the future. But Mike, it has been great chatting with you about it. Man, what you got coming up, and where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Novice Cinephile on just about every platform. The Novice Cinephile on Instagram and Threads. Over on TikTok, I'm dropping videos there once a week. Over on Collider.com, I'm usually writing reviews. I think my last review was of Superman and Lois, ironically enough, which is phenomenal, by the way.
Good.
That's such a good show. I'm gonna be sad to see it go, but hopefully the next interpretation of Superman keeps that legacy going a little bit. Yeah, at Collider, pretty much that's all I'm doing right now. And here on this podcast every couple of weeks, talking everything superhero stuff. I got to get caught up with Agatha. I hear it's great. I am like 3 episodes back, so I need to get back into it and catch up.
Man, Agatha is so good, and Penguin is so good too.
Ooh,
Having two great superhero shows right now is like amazing.
Villain shows. That's the crazier part to me. Of like, this is what. Not to go back to Venom, but like this is what we could have been doing. Like if we're gonna do villains, why don't we have it be in the continuity with the hero? Because I like seeing what's happening. Like Batman is still saving people from the dumb flood that happened like a week ago in Gotham. Like everybody keeps saying, "Where's Batman?" He is probably still saving people from like all the destruction that the Riddler caused, because that was just like a week back. But I do like seeing what's happening in the Gotham underworld. And I want to see how this all folds into Batman 2, because Matt Reeves did say it leads directly into the next movie. And Agatha, I see the spoilers on my timeline, even though I don't know exact details. And I'm like, this looks very interesting. So I'm excited to see this corner of the MCU kind of thriving and doing its own thing. And if it ties back into the larger narrative, that's cool. But if it just kind of stays in its own like pocket of just like the witchy side of the MCU, I love that too. Let's just keep doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think Venom, honestly, that's weird to say. I'm like, I think a Tom Hardy 4-episode Venom series could have been fun. I mean, at that point, it's like, yeah, it's just over here doing its own thing. I don't have to go to the movie theaters. Maybe it could have been a little bit more fun that way, but we'll never know. Guys, if you're over on Geekly Goods Live, where this is streaming, come on over to the main channel, Geekly Goods. We got reviews and reactions coming out all throughout the week, as well as covering more superhero media on this show every other week, guys. So come on back to the channel, guys, and let's talk some more superhero media. Let's talk some more movies, and let's talk geek, y'all. We'll see you next time on Geekly Goods and the Chatter After. See y'all.
Peace.